Miami Hurricanes fans have tried to put various soft deadlines on dates you need to have a quarterback by. National Signing Day, Christmas, New Year's Eve. These dates are coming and going. What are the actual hard deadlines? Miami Hurricanes need to have a transfer quarterback by.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen each and every day and your last listen of the year. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Transfer portal, it's been a frustrating process when it comes to quarterbacks, right? I do not believe Miami has all of their eggs in the Cam Ward basket. They've done their due diligence on a handful of others, but clearly Cam Ward from Washington State has been, and until proven otherwise, will always be Miami's top option. And Miami is waiting on his timeline, okay? And the latest buzz on Ward. First of all, folks, everything you hear, take it with a grain of salt, because some were reporting 2 or 3 weeks ago that Miami had their quarterback. That was clearly premature, okay? We have been saying for the last couple of weeks, and I still believe this to be the case, that Miami has the edge over FSU and any other possible college destination for Ward. A lot of us saw Ohio State as a potential threat. Seems like Ohio State is closing in on Will Howard, who's been Miami's other top option throughout this process. The thing right now that folks are starting to consider more and more of a real threat as this process goes on is Cam Ward actually potentially making the decision, even if he's probably not a first or even second day draft pick, that he does want to go to the NFL, that he wants to take that gamble on himself and enter the NFL draft and get that 1-year jump on his rookie contract. And it's definitely a gamble because, again, when college players, underclassmen are, when they're talking with their advisors, their family members, and they're getting that feedback from NFL scouts and from, executives from NFL teams to figure out where I might be drafted. Usually, if you don't get a first or a second round grade, if you're anything below that, the thought is might be better off coming back for a final year. Obviously, not everybody takes that advice, okay? We've seen it over and over again at Miami years gone by when a lot of players will leave Miami early when they're not necessarily first or second day draft picks. Cam Ward may end up going that same route. Was reported yesterday by Mike Ryan from the Dan Le Batard Show, who's pretty plugged in with all things Miami. And he actually said that he's now hearing that Ward is leaning more to the NFL than staying in college. Now, if it is college, it seems like Miami is the most likely destination, but he might be leaning more now towards the National Football League. And there are people within his inner circle, Ward's inner circle, that, would like to see him play one more year in college at a place like Miami, but that he is actually believing in. And listen, there's nothing wrong with believing in yourself, okay? That he might actually be leaning more towards taking that next step. A guy who's been all over this quarterback stuff since the transfer portal opened, Kribbe from Canes Insight, has also been saying that, the NFL draft is the biggest threat there. We'll see what happens. Now, it's gotten to that point where Miami Hurricanes fans and other college football fans are like, they're checking for the pinned locations on Instagram. And where is he right now? What's Cam Ward doing? So he might still be there right now. Within the last couple of days, Cam Ward has actually been in Los Angeles. So that makes people wonder, oh no, Lincoln Riley's going to make a power play for Ward. I'm not completely ruling that out. However, Ward's trip to Los Angeles has something to do with a documentary that he's doing or filming. So he's there supposedly for reasons that are no way directly tied with the USC Trojans. And also, I'm not saying nobody ever breaks rules, but keep in mind, you cannot make any official visits right now because we're still in a dead period. January 3rd would be the earliest that Ward. I mean, Ward visited Miami and Florida State before the dead period started. He cannot make an official visit anywhere, including USC, until January 3rd at the earliest. So the reasons he's been in LA for the last couple of days are not directly related to USC. So what are the actual important dates to know? Because, again, the soft deadlines. Cam Ward laughs at your soft deadlines. You wanted him here by National Signing Day? Nope. You wanted him here by Christmas? Nope. You want him here by New Year's Eve? Still got time on that one, but, not necessarily expecting anything to come down today. So, two most important deadlines now coming up for Ward. The deadline for him to declare for the NFL draft is January 15th. Now, nobody wants it to take that long for obvious reasons. Miami and Florida State, if they're waiting for his decision, 16 days away, that seems like an awful long time to sit around and wait for somebody, okay? So again, if you want to get your transfer portal quarterback, you'd be worried that by the time the music stops on January 15th, if Ward decides to go to the NFL, how many of your other targets have come off the board elsewhere, all right? So that's an important date. January 15th, that's his deadline to decide if he's going pro or not. You hope he makes a decision before that. The other deadline would be, and this is less of a drop-dead date, but if you're Miami, whether it's Cam Ward or anybody, you really want to have that veteran quarterback around for spring football, right? Spring football starts in, I think, late February, early March. But here's the thing. You can't play spring football if you're not enrolled for the spring semester. And my understanding is the deadline for that, like the drop dead deadline, it's even a week after classes start, but, they give you a little bit of a grace period to enroll. I think January 24th. I was told January 24th is the final date you can enroll for the spring semester at the University of Miami. So if you don't have a new quarterback enrolled by January 24th, then you ride with what you got through spring football, which is not ideal, right? Because if you're not, and I don't believe Miami wants Ja'Carri Brown or Emory Williams to be the full-time starting quarterback next season, because you'd have to grow with an inexperienced quarterback. Miami would like to try to win 10 games next year. I don't think Ja'Carri or Emory give you the best options to do that. You're kind of continuing the rebuild if you go with one of those guys next year. So if you're not going to hand the reins off to one of those guys next season, ideally, you want your upperclassman veteran quarterback to be able to play in spring football. It's so important for him to start learning the offense. It's so important for him to build rapport with his teammates in an official capacity. It's everything. You want to have your quarterback by then, all right? So those are the next important dates you look for. January 15th, his deadline to declare for the NFL draft. January 24th, his deadline to enroll in spring classes at Miami. Now, we talk about the more distant future. Well, really not that distant, because I think some of these guys can make an impact as true freshmen year one. Miami's got a handful of players participating in the Under Armour All America game. And after media day and the first day of practice, got some interesting notes to share specifically on JoJo Trader, 4-star, some places 5-star wide receiver out of Chaminade, Madonna, who will be enrolling for spring at Miami. And linebacker Adarius Hayes. You remember Adarius Hayes was a longtime Florida Gator commitment who flipped to Miami late in the process. So Adarius, I was watching a video clip. And by the way, shout out to my colleague, Brian Smith from allhurricanes.com. He's also our recruiting expert here on Locked On Canes. He is out covering the Under Armour game, media day, watching all the practices. And in a video that I was watching with Darius Hayes, I also heard some questions asked by Manny Navarro from The Athletic, he's a badass. He's been doing this for a long time at a high level, great reporter and great content creator on the Miami Hurricanes. And they were talking with Darius Hayes about, his decision ultimately to flip from Florida to Miami. First of all, I love his dimensions. He's 6'4", 230 heading into his true freshman season. That dude is ready to wreck some people. Like Adarius Hayes, that guy is already built for the college game. I can't wait to bring him into Miami's linebacker room. He said Miami coaches, he got the impression visiting Miami multiple times, Miami coaches really do care about their players, he said. He said the coaching staff and the atmosphere on campus are big reasons why he decided Miami was a really good spot for him when he decided Florida was not a good spot for him. And yes, listen, I know people make their jokes about Mario, but when it comes to Miami's defensive coaching, this past year was a really good one for Lance Guidry at defensive coordinator. He had most of the answers dialed up schematically on defense. And Derek Nicholson, Miami's linebackers coach, my goodness, did he make an impact in one season, not only on the recruiting trail, but on the field. That linebacker unit really performed well under D. Nick. You saw the excellent year that Corey Flagg had. Kiko Mauinoa, I take nothing away from him. He's a fantastic player, but just had by far his best season under Derek Nicholson. He did an awesome job coaching those linebackers, and that makes an impression on recruits. That's the type of guy, D. Nick, you want to be coached by, okay? As far as why Adarius Hayes decided to leave Florida's class, he was asked if, all the turmoil surrounding Billy Napier, right? Because, a lot of people, and whether this is fair or unfair, I know some of the Florida fans may be like, why is this Miami guy running his mouth? Like, fair or unfair, right now, the impressions the National College Football community have is that Billy Napier might be heading into a lame duck season, right? That he may not make it, beyond 2024 at Florida. And so then players who are coming in as true freshmen have to think, wait, if this doesn't work out with the current head coach, is he fired within a year? Do I need to enter the transfer portal within a year? Is this turmoil the right situation for me to enroll in right now? And Darius Hayes did acknowledge that had a lot to do with his decision to back out of his commitment to Florida. He confirmed that was the case, and he grew up a Gators fan. So I know that wasn't an easy thing for him to decide to do, but he made what he felt was the best decision for his football future and the best decision for his family. And I can obviously respect that. Now, our guy Brian Smith also spoke with JoJo Trader. And by the way, man, watching some of that footage at the Under Armour practices, seeing him make those ridiculous, like behind the head, one-armed catches. Trader is like a magician out there. And Smith asked JoJo, what role do you see yourself playing in Miami? I think he sees himself playing anywhere, but he did specifically mention that Miami's coaches see him playing in the slot. That's the role that they want him to play at Miami. And I think he can be dynamic at that. Now, we did get some, not surprising, but unfortunate news within the last couple of days that Brashard Smith is definitely entering into the transfer portal. He is leaving Miami. I wish him nothing but the best. I wish he'd been, he was taking some pot shots at Miami on his Instagram live, which, I'm not really a fan of that, the whole burning bridges thing. Like, I prefer to keep it above board, but it is what it is. I'm a big supporter of Brashard Smith. And you know what? I can understand some of the reasons why Brashard was frustrated, because I thought he could have been used a lot more down here. So my hope would be with guys like JoJo Trader, with guys like Ray Joseph, and guys like Nye Carr coming in who have similar dynamic skill sets to what Brashard Smith brought to the table. I would like Miami's coaches to do more to bring some of that magic out of them. Do more with these guys than you were able to do with Brashard Smith, because JoJo Trader could be absolutely electric. Ray Joseph, I think, will be, as soon as this coming season, absolutely electric. And Nye Carr, I think it's going to end up being one of the steals of that class of 2024. So hopefully we can find a way to make it click with these guys. And a lot of that's going to have to do with who the quarterback is, not only next year, but beyond. So stay tuned, my friends. And stay tuned. We're not done yet here on this episode of Locked On Canes. I want to officially introduce to you guys the man, Ray Bourg, who's going to be our baseball correspondent, our Canes baseball correspondent during the season. I know we're still a long ways away from baseball. I also want to pick his brain on what Miami's New Year's resolution should be for football for 2024, and how much legs this Florida State lawsuit has. Because again, and by the way, I saw what happened to Florida State last night, okay? I saw what happened, but I want to be better than some of those Florida State content creators who, when Miami loses a game, they talk more about Miami than they do about the team that they cover. That's not what we do here. Like, Florida State got embarrassed in a way I've never seen happen in bowl season before. Worst margin of defeat in Florida State football history, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because we like to take the high road here on Locked On Canes. But Florida State may actually play a role in dissolving the ACC, and I'm all for that. And guys, on tomorrow's episode, we will have a Monday episode. We do not take New Year's Day off here on Locked On Canes because we don't stop grinding. We don't stop working. I want you guys to let me know on Twitter or on X, as we call it now. You could tweet us or post to us at Locked On Canes your New Year's resolutions for Miami football in 2024. Drop those to us. If you're watching us on YouTube, drop them in the comments below, your New Year's resolutions. If you're a member of our Locked On Canes Insiders community, you can join it by clicking the link in the show description below. Send us your New Year's resolutions for Miami football in 2024. We continue. We are only getting started on this episode, brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And we are only getting started on FanDuel. And it is an NFL Sunday. I always keep busy on that FanDuel app. The NFL season is wrapping up. The regular season is wrapping up. Obviously, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel because the playoffs are going to be lit. Week 17, Week 18 are going to be lit. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 money line bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, okay? The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and so much more. And guys, I love the player props. Thinking about locking in Tyreek Hill player prop for the game today, Dolphins and Ravens. Maybe I'll get myself a Lamar Jackson prop because that dude's pretty electric. So there's so much you can do at FanDuel. I encourage you guys to check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen of the day and maybe your last listen of 2023 as we're about to turn the page on 2024. I like to reintroduce. I say reintroduce because he's been on the show before, but Raymond Bourg, he's going to be our baseball correspondent, our Canes baseball correspondent once that season begins. So we will talk a little bit of baseball outlook with him, but he's also very well informed about conference realignment and a lot of football stuff as well. So Ray, I see you're already ready for baseball season. How are you, sir?
Very good. I'm waiting for the warmer weather. It's been below freezing all day today, this morning in Georgia. So I'm looking forward to a baseball season, warm weather. Now that football season's over.
Like you look like you're in the dugout right now. Like you're dressed as if you're like the third base coach or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to head out of the stadium and Rodriguez Field and get a shake. So absolutely, thank you for the compliment.
Oh, you're very welcome, sir. Now, first of all, I want to ask you this question before the rest of our listeners and our audience chimes in on this. If you could give me your New Year's resolution for Canes football in 2024. That's going to be the big topic of conversation on the show tomorrow, Ray. What's yours?
Find the quarterback as quickly as possible who's going to be a leader of this team because right now they simply don't have it. It's unfortunate. I watched the bowl game. I wasn't surprised. I just want to see players get in. I didn't want anyone hurt, which did happen. I don't like playing on a baseball field. I think that's horrible. I think it's begging for an injury. And it happened. We lost our running back for God knows how long. Yeah. Luckily, nobody else got hurt, but it was a nasty, sloppy field. But we need a quarterback. The bottom line, and we need a leader on that team. We have a lot of great pieces, but we don't have that leader. We have Bain on defense, no doubt. He is going to be the defensive captain next year. Absolutely, I'm excited about the defensive line, but we've got to get a quarterback of some sort from the transfer portal. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And no matter what the scenario, you have to get a quarterback because there's just not enough bodies in that room, right? I mean, I'm assuming Jakari Brown is going to stay and not transfer, which is great. And I think we saw in that bowl game, he's definitely progressing. I just don't think he's ready to hand the reins to yet in 2024. I would say the same thing for Emory Williams. You got Judd Anderson coming in as a true freshman, and that's it. You only have 3 scholarship quarterbacks, and I don't believe any of those are really ready to be the guy in 2024. So you have to find a quarterback. There's no question about that. a lot of people, Ray, are wondering if, by the time 2024 is over, will we have more clarity on the future of the Atlantic Coast Conference, right? You and I, we talk about this stuff so much off the air, about conference realignment, about the future of the ACC, if Miami might someday end up in the Big X, the Big 12, the SEC. With this lawsuit with Florida State suing the ACC, could this potentially, if it goes Florida State's way, could this open the floodgates that could allow schools like Miami, Clemson, North Carolina to find their way out as well?
Yeah, I absolutely believe this has been planned. As soon as the playoff was announced, I thought that was going to be the catalyst for Florida State to jump. Now they've got their real reason to leave, and it took less than 24 hours for the rumors to hit the internet, and then they filed suit. And I don't blame them one bit. I don't think the ACC has taken care of their members, specifically the new ones from the old Big East and Florida State recently. I think they care about the North Carolina Blue Bloods and UVA and Tech. They were left out and they were angry and they've been losing money. Part of it's their own fault for hiring bad coaches and the buyouts, but they are financially in debt right now. And I think it's going to go their way because of the way the state of Florida's laws are written you're forcing them to make a profit. They had a horrible TV deal. They're forced to take a Stanford and Cal, which does nothing for the program. SMU works for recruiting in Texas. It's a lot of money, and it is a very good school. But I think that was the last straw, and we're going to find a way to get out of it. And I think they've been working on it for a year and a half. And if you don't think Miami hasn't been told a little bit what's going on, and they've done their own research along with North Carolina, who's also rumored to leave, you're fooling yourself. But I think this is the floodgate. I think this is the floodgate. It's going to end the ACC. I don't see ESPN wanting to keep the ACC and renegotiate a TV contract or them sharing the revenue. They could, if the ACC wanted to do that, they could have done that earlier, but they haven't done that yet. So I think it's going to be an exit strategy for Florida State, and I think Miami right behind them. Now, what conference they end up in is the $1 million question.
Yeah,
we talked before, and the Big X seems to want Florida State by the rumor mill. Will Miami be a combo package where, hey, we want the rivalry, we have the relationship, and you got two schools in Florida? Or will they go around and say, let's take UNC, let's take maybe a Duke to get in the state of North Carolina? We'll get one school in Florida, we'll get one school in North Carolina, maybe a UVA. Academically, it's an incredible school. Cavs sports programs outside of baseball has been a bit shaky. In basketball, of course, national champions only a few years ago. So it's a good fit. So, I mean, I could start seeing, unfortunately, from your coworker, Miami end up in the Big 12, and I hate it in some ways. Geographically, it's great, but financially, I don't know if they're going to get Miami the money they need. But I do think the conference is about to implode, and I think we're going to know something as soon as July.
Well, yeah, if that were to happen, if it does go the Big 12 route, then I know my guy Drake Toll would be very happy. But we will cross that bridge when we get to it. So Ray is going to be our Canes baseball correspondent throughout the season. Of course, you guys know that our pal Hoodie Girl is our basketball correspondent. Ray is going to be locking it down on the baseball side for us. First and foremost, Ray, managerial change this past offseason, wasn't as spicy as some fans were hoping for. We have viewed this Canes baseball team in recent years, during the Gino DeMaria era, especially underachievers, right? Underachievers once you get to postseason play. You look at the team this coming season, opening up mid-February against NJIT. Do you think this team might be able to actually get over the hump in the way recent teams haven't?
I don't know, because it's very young. They've lost a lot of great players. I mean, they've lost the leader right now, dealing with Morales going to Washington as with second round draft pick. That's gonna be a big deal. And they've lost a lot of pitching. It's a very young team. They lost 7 or 8 juniors in the draft, going to multiple teams from Texas to Cleveland. They've got a very young team. I believe they have 9 to 10, 12 freshmen when I counted the roster last night. Some very decent recruits. Their best recruit, though, was out of Doral Academy by the name of Adrian Santana, but unfortunately with college recruiting, you may lose him to the draft, and they were drafted by the Rays, and he signed. But I think it could be a step back. Now, they did make a move. Gino did resign, retire, forced out, whatever the case may be, because they did lose to Texas when they thought last year they had a very good team, but they ended up 42-21. And again, they bowed out of the first round at home. It did it 2 years ago against the eventual baseball champions, Ole Miss Rebels. So I don't know if it's going to be any better. I think it could be a curveball year, and I didn't see any transfer on the roster so far. Now, that could change. I don't know who's coming in. as of right now, but there could be some change. But now you've got also, besides you have JD as a new manager, who's a former assistant. You've also got a new coach from Rutgers via the Red Sox. Forgive me for not remembering the Red Sox manager's name, but he's the former Kane. But Darren Fanister, I believe you pronounce his name, is one of the new coaches as well, too. So, but there was some controversy because evidently there was two people that were really interested. And one was a Troy Tulowitzki, I believe, from Texas, who's an assistant coach, along with the Wake Forest head coach, but they didn't interview him. Felt like a Randy Shannon, like, let's just keep somebody in-house.
Yeah. Unless
that was the plan behind it. But I think they're going to have some problems this year, and they're very young in pitching. A lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, a lot of room for improvement. And the schedule is not going to be helpful. It's going to be a tough schedule.
And a little bit on that, tough schedule, but there are going to be a lot of good home series, right? And to me, Ray, and you already mentioned the milkshakes, Mark Light, for a number of different reasons, including the shakes, it's one of the best, just one of the most fun sporting event experiences in South Florida. Great place to take out your kids and your family. Atmosphere is great. The food and the milkshakes is great. Hopefully the baseball is great as well this coming year. There's some good home series on deck.
Yeah, there's some great ones. They've been pressing on them. I mean, they start off weak, NIT, LIU, and I think UCF comes to town for one game, and I'm not sure what they're going to show up to be. But you've got the Gators coming in. You've got Clemson coming in. You've got UVA coming in. ACC is very strong. You got Louisville coming in.
Yeah.
And then you got Tech here. I'll be able to see the series here, those 3 games here. But it's going to be a great home schedule. It's going to be a great opportunity to sell season. And like I said, it's cheap. It's only $180 for season tickets. If I can start selling season tickets. So it's really inexpensive for your family. The only negative I've heard is parking. I may, but I'm sure there's workarounds and there's places I'm not aware. So I haven't been to Coral Gable in several years. But it's a great place to watch a game. It's a good family environment, and they push on that. You got the Miami Maniac for the kids. They got side things I've heard through the years. But it's going to be it's a good time to go to a game. And I think baseball is a sport where it's inexpensive. It's nice to get out specifically in that time of year. And all the teams come. That's the problem with Miami baseball is everyone wants to come out. So the first couple of months, they don't go on the road. I don't think they go on the road until like late March.
Wow.
So it's always that way because all the northern teams wants to come. Like I'll give you an example from a couple of years ago. Boston College would want to open up the conference schedule down here because it's still snowing up there. I lived there for 2 years, and it's miserable. I'm sorry, there's no way to put it. Bostonians, nothing personal, kind of wasn't my cup of tea, but they come down early, so they don't get that road test unless they're playing the Gators. And this year the Gators come home, and that team is loaded as usual.
Yeah, they always have Miami's number too. They get in baseball.
Yeah, last year they got it. It's always been the kicker. But the thing is, what is the issue, and what the fans don't know, and I learned maybe 10 years ago through Joe Zazeski, one of his interviews, was these guys aren't on full scholarships, the whole team. There's only, I think, 11 and a half, 12 and a half. I thought, is that a Miami financial thing? And it turns out to be an NCAA rule. So they have to get now NIL money, potentially scholarship offers, or maybe they're academically gifted where they can get money or other circumstances of need. But UF, all those guys are full scholarship for the most part, some way, somehow. Florida State, all the way for a full scholarship. So that's the key. It's hard to recruit for Miami when you can't get a full team. And against the best players are going to get drafted. So you got to spend time. They may not sign. They may not go to a team they want to play for. That's a risk. But then you lose them and you spend a lot of time and you've lost that player. Miami had a lot of, their last couple of regimes have done that. They seem to focus on these high draft picks. And it's like you could try and keep a relationship, but more than likely they're going to grab the money, as they should. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to talk with you all throughout baseball season, and I want to see some different jersey and hat combos. I do. I actually, for Christmas, I received a baseball hat, but it was too big, so I have to do like the return and get my head's big, but it's not as big as the one that my father tried to give me for Christmas. So I will have a baseball hat to rock with you as well next time, Ray. Thank you so much for taking the time, my friend, and we'll be in touch again, of course, before baseball starts because there's a lot of other stuff going on I want to get your take on.
Thank you very much. I enjoy the time here. Look forward to the season. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year, and I hope everyone celebrates safely and responsibly tonight. Like, don't go too crazy, all right? We'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.